our community is facing a crisis on a scale that just a few months ago we couldn't have imagined. And I believe we face two grave risks, that our community's agencies and resources will be overwhelmed by the needs of the Jewish vulnerable, and that we will see the most massive loss of participation in Jewish life in the history of our community as members withdraw from our day schools, supplementary schools, camps, JCCs, and synagogues. And left unaddressed, these two challenges run the risk of dismantling many of our community's core institutions. And for a community that's known for its high participation rates in Jewish life, this defining characteristic would be lost. And I'll tell you, we spent the initial part of this crisis making emergency grants to our social service agencies because they're very much on the front lines right now of what we are facing. And they are seeing things that, frankly, demonstrate that a much more serious crisis is about to emerge. Jewish Family and Child Service is seeing a steep increase in people calling just for assistance with basic needs. The number of domestic abuse calls has spiked. JAX is seeing an 85% increase in the number of people who are calling for help with substance abuse. Bernard Battelle sees 40% increase in the number of kosher Meals on Wheels requests. If you look at the general statistics in Canadian society, 4 in 10, or 44% of Canadian households are facing job loss or a significant reduction in their working hours. The job loss numbers are 9 times higher than they were at the height of the 2008-2009 financial crisis. And as a Jewish community, we're not immune to that. We're facing the same things. Nearly half of all Jewish households are suffering. And so on the one hand, you have the 1 in 8 Jews who struggled with poverty before the pandemic, who are now in even greater need. And with that group, I believe UJA, together with its social service agencies, and because of our annual campaign, we will be able, provided that our annual campaign stays strong, we'll be able to meet the needs of the already vulnerable. What we cannot manage are the surging needs of the newly vulnerable. And in a community as amazing as ours, we should never have to turn away vulnerable Jews due to insufficient resources. If 4 in 10 households are impacted, many people will not be reemployed when all this is over. They're going to need our help through our social service agencies to make sure that we're there to meet their needs so that they can reemploy within a year. We're anticipating, together with our social service agencies, a doubling of the caseload in the community. So right now in the Jewish community, there are 25,000 vulnerable Jews who receive care from our Jewish social service agencies. We're expecting that in the next year to grow to 50,000. And where we're focused is we launched last night an emergency campaign because part of what we want to do in that emergency campaign is raise an additional $7 million to double the amount we invest in our Jewish social service agencies so that on a one-time basis, they can meet this surge in newly vulnerable Jews. And I'll give you a practical reason why it's so important that we be able to do so. If we're able to help people when at the early stage of this crisis, so that many of these people are highly employable, they have terrific skills, they're just going to need retraining and supports in order to get back on their feet. If we're able to do that, it will create a much healthier dynamic for our community. If we're not able to help our social service agencies meet that unprecedented need, what's going to happen is, the average cost to our community of helping someone through our social service agencies, take a typical family, would be about $10,000 a year. That's a combination of the direct financial supports that we provide those families over and above what government gives them, plus assistance for housing. If we have to sustain a family on those kind of supports for multiple years, the cost to the community of doing that will be much greater than if we're able to rise to the occasion right now to help our Jewish social service agencies meet that kind of unprecedented demand.